Hi all, hope you're well. Cullen here. I am sitting with the incomparable Dom Nesci, founder and director of Wealthi. Dom, how are you this brilliant Wednesday in lockdown life, sir?
All the better for working with you, Cullen. So I'm glad that you're back on the mic and we're having these conversations.
I think so. Look, I was having a brainwave, as you know, last week, and I was thinking, you know what? We're hearing all this doom and gloom in the market. Everyone seems to be contracting. It needs to get some positivity out there. And I thought, why not hook up with my old friend Dom, reboot our Aventus, and let's get a snapshot on what's happening in the market. Right from
Happy to do so.
Please. So look,
well, I mean, yeah, you go.
Please, no, you go, mon ami, please.
Well, I think that there is a bit of doom and gloom from a personal point of view. People are locked up. They're in their apartments, houses, in their homes, and it's tough when you're locked up. I mean, it's tougher for some than most. I know where you are. You've got a beautiful house that you recently bought. Congratulations. You've got the pool. You've got your library. And by the way, I really love what you've set up there. But
thanks,
for some
man.
people,
here.
Alfie, it's especially tough for some people. They haven't got the big beautiful house or an apartment with a view and a walk down to Coogee. So my heart goes to them. For people that are out there and they are looking at this space and saying, well, what opportunities exist in the market? I have other things to say because, the property market is doing very well. It's surprised everybody in spite of COVID. It's doing incredibly well. The government threw a whole heap of stimulus into the economy. They've thrown a whole bunch of government grants. A lot of first home buyers stepped into the markets. And we're in an environment where interest rates are incredibly low, and it looks like
absolutely 1.84 is the cheapest. Just so you know, all those too polite to ask.
1.84.
1.84.
So people are taking advantage of that. I mean, your business is going crazy. You're getting a lot of more loans than ever, right?
Record numbers, and that's also to the fact that we deal with lawyers, and whether good news or bad news, they're always going to be employed, right? So, but it is incredible, and that's why most of them are taking advantage because debt has never been so low as well.
Well, that's the point I want to make, is that debt is so cheap, it's going to remain cheap for a while. So the people that have saved a deposit, aren't traveling anywhere, and they've got this cash sitting there, they've got to do something with it. Cash doesn't cut it anymore. Leaving it in the bank isn't making you any money. It's going backwards, especially because the government is printing money. So when you're putting more supply into the ecosystem, that is reducing the value of a dollar these days. So
Correct.
What you need to do is find a safe haven to put your money so that you can go and work yourself towards being wealthy. Shameless plug. And there are opportunities all over the market. I do a lot of reading. A lot of core logic data is one of my favorite sources, and the major capital cities are performing well. The smaller cities are performing better in a lot of instances.
Yes.
Melbourne has suffered. It hasn't grown as fast as the other states, but therein is telling you a narrative. 15% in Sydney. Brisbane's done nearly about the same rate, where Melbourne's sort of half that. And coming out of COVID, I think we're going to see a lot of demand move back into the market in those areas that haven't moved as fast.
Okay. And Australians in general, we've got this idea of success of owning property. Do you think, and it might be a pointed question, that not being able to travel has kind of forced that upon us, especially for those living in lockdown, and giving us that kind of sense of FOMO, I've got to do this now?
I think a lot of people, what we saw is the market recovery was led from first home buyers, and then it was also led from people buying in regional cities.
Yeah.
So regional cities moved the fastest and the hardest. And then you had houses moving the fastest and the hardest at the top end of the market. So people went out and said, I want to go get some space. And that came in the form of either moving to somewhere regional, or it came in the space of getting something bigger than what they were in.
Correct.
So people went bought homes, they moved out of cities.
Okay.
What I think we'll see next is when we move to more normalized environment, when the vaccine rollout is in full effect, when we've learned to live with COVID, when borders start to open up again, I see a tremendous opportunity in all those other parts in the market. So closer to CBDs. I do see opportunities for apartments. So yeah, people that have been sitting at home, saved a deposit, they said, listen, I want to go buy something, get something bigger. Let's go buy a house. But then there are still a whole heap of people now that are sitting at home. They own the house. Like
Yes.
you, they bought it maybe 6, 12, 24 months ago. They've seen 15, 20% price growth, and they're sitting a whole heap of equity. So what do you do next? Probably go, there's only so much stocks and, equities and things, but you can go out and buy another property.
Yeah. And where are you finding the hotspots are for those that have that equity and going, where do I begin? Obviously, engaging services like yourself and the team at Wealthi is a must. But where do you think the opportunity or growth areas lie?
Probably there's many. So many. There are many. It really, I hate to be that person, but it comes down to your personal preference and
of course it does.
Where you are in your life and what your budget is. Let me throw a couple at you, if I may.
You may.
So I think that people need to reframe what is a good, healthy return.
Okay.
So what we've seen in commercial real estate, industrial, and retail is typically people went to those property classes for a really strong, healthy rental yield or rental return.
Yes.
Those markets have the yield has compressed because everybody went and looked for those strong yields. So the cash on cash return of 5, 6, 7%, and they've compressed to sub 5% in many instances. So what I'd like to say is there are some really good residential markets. You can go buy some units in Sydney with a 4% or a 4.5% rental yield. That's incredibly strong.
Yes.
Especially because you're looking at a 2% vacancy rate. So that's like a week or two vacant in a year. And then you can have a look at other markets like Brisbane, which for a long time was depressed. It didn't really perform as well as the other states, but it's recently come out and performed very strong. They're close to getting the Olympic Games. Well, they've got Olympic Games bid, so hopefully they get it. And if they do that, it'll be tremendous for the economy.
That'd be great.
You can go buy a house there for $500,000 with a 4.5, 5, maybe even a 6% yield. Now, when I'm talking about this yield scenario, I like it because it suits a number of different people. It's cheap, and depending on whether or not you're aggressive or not, you know this better than me, but you can structure your debt in a number of ways. You can go principal and interest, be very aggressive, pay down the debt as fast as possible, and have an unencumbered asset in maybe 15 or 20 years, depending on how aggressive you want to be. Or you can go the other way and say, listen, I'm actually trying to increase the amount of debt, go interest only, not pay down the debt, but then you can capture a whole heap of cash, claim the tax return or claim the interest on your tax return, and use that additional cash and then go buy another property. So for me, it's buying season. It's about identifying where the opportunities are and trying to maximize what your cash and cash return is.
Of course.
I went everywhere there, mate. Sorry.
No, I like it. But I like with the kind of tangent we're going, because it brings me to my next question. And I get this a lot. Cullen, my accountant wants me to get the maximum tax benefits and say negative gearing, but I'm reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki is telling me to get positively geared properties. Like, is there a right or wrong answer?
Yeah. Again, it comes down to personal preferences. I think that I like to say to people that when you are buying an investment, particularly property, it's like a marriage. You're hoping that you're going to own this asset for at least 20, 30 years, or you're going to stay together for a long time. You're not trying to buy.
He's hoping.
Yeah, you're not buying it for 3, 4, 5 years. So when you're thinking about the longer time scales, it really starts to put stuff into perspective. Now, when you're starting out your portfolio, the way that I like to structure portfolios is earning $5,000 a year positive cash flow doesn't really change your life. But if you've got a property that grows $100, $200, $300,000, that changes your life. Now, in the early stages, I like to be quite conservative and buy assets where they are in blue chip areas, strong metropolitan places where there's good economic growth, strong population growth. You can see changes in the demographics where incomes are increasing, or you can see that there are major transport or infrastructure going in that's going to fundamentally change people's lives. So if you can see that, you can, with a better sense of predicting, looking to the future, you get a sense of how the market's going to change. And I'd rather go for those investments where we're going to see $100,000, $200,000 growth in the short to medium term.
Yes.
And then use that equity to keep on buying some assets. Now, the thing is, at a certain point where people don't talk about this, and you know this better than most, you run out of capacity.
Correct.
So your debt to income ratio gets thrown out of whack. And what is it currently, like 6 or 7%? 6 or 7 times, sorry?
Yeah, some banks have that 6 to 7 times rule. Other banks are a bit more lenient, but you're right. Unless your income's going up, because obviously the next investment property you can take into account and we can add back that rental income. But it gets to a point, I've got some very great clients. We bought their first property together. Now they're on their almost 6th property and they're quite savvy investors themselves. But now it's getting to the point where they're almost capped, or they will be capped soon unless their expenses go down. They remove some credit cards and things, or their income goes up. So it kind of goes like this. And you kind of plateau, I would say, unless circumstances change or your debt goes down.
So, and then that's a really important point, because then at that point in there, you can start shifting into a more sophisticated investor. Then you start making more lifestyle choices. How aggressive do I want to go? Do I want to now become a property developer? Do I want to buy an old block and subdivide it? Do I want to sell down one of my older assets and pay down some debt and then shift towards a higher income producing asset?
Yes.
So to go back to your original question, for your first 1 or 2 investments, I think it is, and it makes sense to go buy some high quality investments, lower your tax, your taxable income. And you can do this through buying a brand new property because you've got the depreciation or the depreciation in there. And you can take advantage of negative gearing without the property actually costing you much money out of pocket through depreciation.
Yes.
So I'm getting a bit technical there. So for instance, you could buy a property and it could be neutrally geared where the rent covers all of the income, the principal repayments, and also all of the expenses. But because it's brand new, the depreciation counts as an expense and it's a paper loss. That paper loss can be applied to your tax return and it lowers your marginal tax bracket, or lowers your marginal your income on paper, and you can use that to then claim a deduction from the taxman.
Nice.
So yeah, there are lots of different ways. There's plenty of nuance in investment, but that's why you need to talk to a good mortgage broker, someone like our team, or a good accountant that is all moving in the same direction as the client.
No, I think that's so important. And, Robert Kiyosaki himself says you need that team around you if you're going to move on to that next level and life-changing wealth. I guess bare bones, I was doing a shout out to Clarissa Raywood, Sarah Follett, Chloe Morgan from the Happy Family Lawyer Clan. I did a presentation with them yesterday, along with an accountant and financial planner, John Knight and Linda McKee. And we were talking about, it's all about the numbers. And I always start these presentations, no matter how technical the presentation gets, I always start with the basics. What's an offset account? What's interest only? What's P&I? What's fixed variable? Because people have those questions. I'm just going to put it to you there, Dom, because not many people know what a buyer's agent or buyer's advocate is. Let's just call a spade a spade. Tell us, what your elevator pitch. What is a buyer's agent and what should a good one be doing?
So there are different types of buyer's agents. So you can go to a buyer's agent like, Simon Cohen from Cullen Haynes, or they've changed their name recently. He's on the Amazon Prime $1 Million Listing, that new show. So you can go to someone like that and they'll go and find you a home and they'll charge you a fee, like 1, 2, 3%, or maybe something fixed to go and find a house that you want to live in.
Yes.
They'll go and look for properties that are off market. They'll negotiate. They'll go to auction. They'll do all that stuff to source you a deal. Then there are some people that are like him, but they'll go and try and source you an investment.
Okay.
Now, they may charge you a fixed fee or a percentage of the property price. And they'll go out into the market, do a whole bunch of work for you to find a property. They're both good. They, depending on who you work with and what your connection is and what you're after. But there is also another type of buyer's agent, and that's like us. We specialize in brand new property. And for that, we actually get paid by the vendor. So whether you go through us or to the developer directly, you're going to get the same price, but through us, because we buy in bulk, we have many clients that work with us, and we pick the investments that we think are the best. We then get paid that agent's fee.
Yes, so it's like a broker of the property market. You're getting paid by the vendor itself.
Yeah, we're a broker of the property market. And we do that because we don't want to impact the client servicing, and we don't want to take the deposit out of their hands. So whether, a developer or a vendor needs to pay an agent, and what we've said is, hey, we've got a client, you give us that fee so I don't have to take it from my client.
No, I think that's amazing, and it's such a brilliant service that you're able to be that advocate and get preferential terms that they wouldn't have found elsewhere through those exclusive arrangements. And I think it's good to just have someone on your side, because not many people know this, but a real estate agent is not working for you; they are working for the vendor. And I get it all the time. Lawyers and real estate agents are like this, because you've got a very smart person, academic, who went to uni, and then there's this other person who's being paid $1 million, like very good money, and they just like that, and they don't trust what they say. And when I say a buyer's agent, I have to tell them why that reason is that you should consider one. And those that know the value of time, which many of my lawyers do because they've got the billable hour, they understand that the time saved is money in itself using a service like yourself. So it's all about translating that need.
Yeah, you can't underestimate the value of a network, time, experience.
Correct.
As I'm getting more and more gray hairs, I'm starting to appreciate that they are hard earned. And
yes,
when you've done as many transactions as I have or as our business has, you learn quite a lot about what's happening and what's motivating different deals. And you can push and pull a vendor or a developer or the person you're trying to buy property from in many different ways if you understand what's happening inside the deal. And if you understand what the economic environment is, and if you understand what the client's motivations are. And the way that we try to be as transparent as we can without divulging anything commercially sensitive, but we work with our clients to get to the best result for them. And it's just about really trying to get good quality investment, because ideally I want them to have equity to then use that to then buy another one.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And look, something popped in my feed and I have to ask you, Dom, stamp duty. New South Wales, yes, particular, do you think it's a good thing, or do you think we should be moving to sort of a land tax model, you pay annually, etc.? I'd love to know your thoughts on this, because I'm hearing two sides of the coin here.
Well, it's interesting, because I think that the government needs to make money. They're putting a lot of money.
That's what the government does.
Yeah. They need to make some money. And one of the ways they make money is through tax, and stamp duty is a huge way for them to go and make money back or reclaim a lot of the money that they're putting into the market through, stimulus and incentives and stuff. So I don't think they're going to get rid of stamp duty soon,
No.
because they need to keep collecting that cash. I think that if they were to transition to some kind of land tax style, that would certainly stimulate the market in a very, very dramatic way, because one of the reasons why people don't trade or sell property or buy property is because of the cost to enter the market.
Correct.
So if they were to get rid of it, you'd see a very, very quick and a hard rise it'd bring forward a lot of sales. Because if I'm waiting an extra year or two to save that $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, not everyone can save $40,000 in a year or 2 years. It brings forward a lot of transactions.
Okay, so potentially a positive thing then with the change.
Yeah, like if it's certainly positive. It'll stimulate the property market if that's what the end result is. But if you're trying to claim a whole heap of money up front to keep the government moving and the wheels turning, then it's not. So I'm sitting on both sides of the fence, and I can understand why.
No, definitely. And look,
let me add to that. Sorry, one thing that I do want to say is if they do shift to a land tax style,
similar to the States, they all have that in the States, right?
Yeah,
like land tax.
If they charge a fee based on the unimproved capital value of the land, not just the price of the property, which is what it's currently the price of the property, but if they shift it to more of a land tax style and then they make you charge your fee over time, I can see that apartments, again, will be stimulated quite a lot or significantly because of that affordability, and because the portion of land that an apartment has is much smaller than obviously a house because they get the whole block of land. I'm very interested to see how this all unfolds.
Me too. I get a lot of questions all the time. And, procrastination is one of those things that is just inherent in human beings. And even my lawyers, who are very transactional, very focused, they go, Cullen, they did the same thing to me in October last year. Should I wait to see what happens with COVID? And look what's happened there. We've actually gone in the opposite direction to what everyone thought in the property market. And I want to ask you that question. No, exactly. No, you were telling me, you were telling everyone on the socials, Dom, you were like that you had the crystal ball and you were saying this is going to be, I think your logic, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think your logic was not many people would want to sell because they don't know what's going on. So there's less stock out in the market. So there's more competition. If you can expand on what you were telling me, I think that'd be great to actually get a feel of actually what's actually happening now and why are we experiencing this?
Well, yeah. So there's a few things in there. I had a good chat with Eliza Owen from CoreLogic. And one of the things...
Shout out to Eliza.
Yeah, one of the reasons why Peter and I didn't think that the market would crash as people assumed it would, is because the government has a significant vested interest in the performance of real estate as a asset class. So do all the banks. I think the banks are exposed. About 60% of their balance sheets are in residential property. And then you look at the government, the household incomes or household wealth is about 50% is made up of real estate.
Yes.
So a significant crash in real estate would be catastrophic for the whole of the economy. It'd be catastrophic for the banks. It'd be catastrophic for the government. It would be like a house of cards, everything falling over. We have so much interest invested into the property market that I just didn't think that the government would be willing to let the house of cards fall over without essentially anarchy. And I didn't think that the banks would want that to happen either, because we sit in more or less an oligarchy. It's not like the US where there's hundreds of banks. Australia is governed by like 4 or 5 major banks. So they have a vested interest in their asset prices remaining high. So they don't want people to necessarily go out and flood the market with property because it reduces the value of all those assets.
Correct.
So then they're going to be left holding the card. They're holding the debt and they're holding the assets. So what we then saw is the government then gave a whole bunch of stimulus, allow people to make payment. And we saw the banks come in and help alleviate a lot of that stress. So, your clients probably didn't experience this because they didn't need to, but a lot of people could call up the bank and say, hey, can I just delay paying my interest for a little while?
Don't you worry. A lot of our clients did. They're quite wily. They didn't need to, but some of them did.
But I think the fact is that I saw that there was a bottom. I didn't think that it was going to crash. Then the other point was that people didn't necessarily need to sell because interest rates were so low, they could afford to carry that debt for a little while and wait to see what actually happened in the market. Then what we saw is the government flooded the market with a whole heap of cash that gave people buying power, a whole heap of stimulus, telling people to buy property. You had first home buyers enter the market, a whole heap of owner occupiers enter the market. The market ran crazy. Then you saw, as we predicted, the market moved 10, 15, 20%. And then ABS put data out that it started shifting from owner occupiers being the fastest growing portion of the market to investors. So then as soon as investors started competing with owner occupiers, you got 4, 5, 6 extra people coming to an auction, stupid rates started going crazy. So Absolutely. It was a perfect storm.
So in terms of what people can be doing, maybe they're not in the position to buy right now, but I do know that they've got a lot of time on their hands, especially in lockdown, to self-development and whatnot. Now, I know Wealthi's got a platform, an online platform where people can self-actualize and increase their property knowledge. I'd like to explore that a bit more there, Dom, because you've put a lot of hours into putting that platform in play.
You're very accommodating. I wasn't anticipating this, but yeah, we have. At the core of what we do, and I hate to, harp on, so I won't, but at the core of what we do is we believe that anybody can be wealthy. We believe that, you've got to determine what that definition of wealthy is. And if you've set the goalposts and you go after it, you can achieve it. Now, part of what we do is obviously help people build wealth through buying property. But what I wanted also to help people do is give them education. So we created Wealthi Academy, and this is just a culmination of a number of videos and podcasts and questions, helping people about all the basic terminology, some more advanced strategies about how to build a portfolio. And then this is really just a culmination of all my reading that I've done, a lot of my experience, a lot of the team's experience, and people like yourself. So we leverage off our network to create this space. It's free. And people can just go in there and learn all about property investing. And when they're ready to buy something, they can use the tools to do it themselves or reach out to us and we'll help them too.
Where's the best place they can reach out to you, Dom? Where are you active? Where are you most live? Where can we find you? Dom Nesci.
You just Google Wealthi, Wealthi.
With an I.
You'll see everything. Yeah. Wealthi with an I.
Wealthy with an I, not Winston with a Y. Wealthy with an I. 3 key takeaways to close there, Dom. What would you want anyone who's dipping their toes into property to know? Your favorite 3 things you tell people.
Oh, I think don't sell yourself short. I think that's a really important one because you're often more capable of doing more than you anticipate, and sometimes, depending on your persona and what you're like, I live by the narrative, bite off more than you can chew and chew like hell. Especially if you're, your growth mindset and you're really, trying to self-actualize and you're trying to push yourself. So yeah, don't undersell yourself. Be a voracious reader. I like you've got a book behind you, Audible, read,
unstoppable,
or jump on YouTube. There's so much information,
so much.
Gather it all, talk to other like-minded people, and that's the other one. Actually, I do truly believe that you're the sum of or at
the
least
5 people you spend the most time with, right?
Yeah, and if particularly for real estate, it's the same thing for real estate. So if you're going to buy something, your house is the average of the 5 other houses or in that street or in that area. So what you want to be doing is buying a house where you've got a lot of really good neighbors and you're benchmarking of something that's more than you. So when we're buying real estate, we look at the median house price and we say, hey, houses are selling here for $2 million and we can go buy a townhouse for $800,000. There's a lot of depth in this market. We've got some really good neighbors. So use that same mentality when you're buying your investments. Get the rub from people that are better or doing more than you. No one's better than you, but you know what I mean.
No, be better than who you were yesterday. And, if you feel uncomfortable, that's probably a good thing, because growth occurs outside the comfort zone, right? So uncomfort is good, and being with people that you wouldn't normally spend time with to level up, that's a good thing as well. And I really resonate with those three things. So again, be a voracious reader, don't sell yourself short, and hang around like-minded people. That's a really nice way to close there, Dom.
Thanks, mate. It's a real pleasure jumping on. We've got to do this more often.
We have to, my friend. So we're going to put this on the socials, guys. We'll put the link to the Academy, Wealthi, etc. I think above on LinkedIn, below on Instagram and YouTube and whatnot. Dom, have a wonderful time. Thank you for joining us, and stay safe, everyone, and be great.